Have you ever wondered if we could give our global food system a report card? A real grade on its environmental performance. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do in this explainer, using hard data to see how the way we eat is really impacting the planet.
Okay, let's just jump right in with the first piece of evidence. And wow, this map it's really something. See all that orange and red? That's where farming covers more than half the land. We're not just talking about some distant fields. This is the actual physical space needed to put food on all of our tables every single day. It's a massive, massive footprint, covering more than a third of the Earth's total land area.
And it's not just about the land it takes up. That whole system is responsible for this number, 31%. Think about that for a second. Nearly a third of all global greenhouse gas emissions come from our food systems. That really sets the stage for the first subject on a report card.
All right, so if we're going to give out a grade, how do we actually do it? What are the rules for this planetary report card? I mean, to do this right, we can't just make things up. We need a real scientific framework.
And that framework has a name: planetary boundaries. The easiest way to think about it is like a health checkup for the Earth. Seriously, scientists have figured out these key systems that keep our planet stable and, livable. As long as we stay within these safe boundaries, we're good. But if we cross them, that's when we risk triggering huge, maybe even irreversible changes. And this is where it gets really interesting, because now we can actually measure how our food system is doing against these critical limits.
First up, the big one, climate and air. Let's take a look at how what we eat is actually changing our atmosphere. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating, because when we think about food emissions, we usually think of like CO2 from trucks or factories, right? But look at this breakdown. That's not the whole story. A full third of the emissions come from just changing how we use land, clearing forests for farms. Another third is everything that happens after the food leaves the farm. And look at this huge chunk. It's not even CO2. It's from these other really powerful gases like methane and nitrous oxide.
And this slide really pinpoints where those other gases are coming from. You've got 60% of the agricultural methane coming directly from livestock. We're basically talking about cow burps. And another quarter? That's from growing rice. As for the nitrous oxide, well, that's mostly from all the fertilizers and manure we're spreading on our farmland.
So, what does all of this add up to? The ultimate yardstick here is something called radiative forcing, which is just a fancy way of saying the total warming effect on the planet, and our food system is responsible for a net increase of almost 0.7 watts per square meter. Now, to put that in perspective for you, that's nearly a quarter of the entire warming effect humanity is causing. A quarter, just from food.
Okay, so let's move on to our next subject and see how this all connects: land and forests. What's our actual footprint on the ground doing to the world's natural ecosystems?
This chart tells a really powerful story. Each of these bars is a major type of forest. See the green? That's how much of it is still intact nature. Now, look at the boreal forests, way up north. They're mostly green, right? Largely untouched. But then you look at the tropical and temperate forests, and yeah, it's a completely different picture.
And here are the hard numbers to back that up. The boreal forest, 92% intact. It's well within its safe boundary. But the tropical forest is down to just 34% intact, and temperate forests are even worse, at only 24%. Both of them are way below their safe planetary boundaries. We've blown right past the line here. So what's driving all this? The answer couldn't be clearer. In the tropics, a staggering 90 to 99% of all deforestation is driven by one thing and one thing only: agriculture. And it's mainly land being cleared for livestock pasture and to grow animal feed like soy.
These two maps just make the point so visually. On the left, you see the total footprint of all agriculture. The red zones are areas where we've crossed the boundary. More than 50% of the land has been converted. Now look at the map on the right. That's just the land for grazing livestock. See how much of it is the same red? The two together are pushing these huge parts of the world, like in South America, Africa, Australia, deep, deep into the red zone.
Okay, next up on the report card, water and nutrients. This one's about what our food system takes from the environment and also what it leaves behind as pollution. First, a really quick but super important distinction. When we talk about water use, there are two kinds. There's blue water. That's the water we actively pull out of rivers and lakes in the ground, mostly for irrigation. And then there's green water. That's just the rainwater that falls on the fields and gets used by the plants. Both are totally critical parts of the bigger picture.
And when it comes to that blue water, well, agriculture is by far the biggest user. We're talking about 70% of all the fresh water that humans consume around the world. It all goes to irrigation. That is just an immense share of a resource we all depend on.
All right, now let's talk about what we leave behind. And a simple way to put it is this: we're basically over-fertilizing the planet. See, the nitrogen and phosphorus from fertilizers and all that manure, it doesn't just stay on the farm. It runs off and ends up in our rivers and oceans.
Let's start with nitrogen. The planetary boundary, the safe limit for the entire planet, is a surplus of about 57 million tons a year. So where are we today? We're at 119 million tons. We are more than double the safe limit. Double.
And you guessed it, it's a very similar story for phosphorus. The safe limit for how much of the stuff washes into our waterways is about 6.1 teragrams per year. Our current reality? 9.7. So once again, we are significantly over the boundary.
So, after looking at the atmosphere, the land, the water, and the nutrient cycles, what's the final grade? Let's pull it all together.
And here it is, the planetary report card for our food system. Let's run down the list. For climate change, the boundary has been transgressed. For land system change, which includes all those forests we talked about, transgressed. For biogeochemical flows, that's our nitrogen and phosphorus pollution, transgressed. The only one where we haven't completely crossed the line is freshwater, and even there we're in the zone of increasing risk. We are definitely heading in the wrong direction. The verdict is, well, it's pretty stark.
Look, the conclusion is pretty much unavoidable. The science is telling us our global food system is getting a failing grade on the very subjects that determine the stability of our entire planet. And that leaves all of us with one final and really critical question. What on earth is it going to change this report?